The scumbag and the manipulative green tea, who accused me of plagiarism, are about to get a taste of their own medicine. My meticulously designed haute couture gown had been selected for the red carpet. But at the celebration party, Sophia held up the original sketch and accused me of stealing her design. To make matters worse, my boyfriend of 1 year, Oliver, stood up for her. "Ethan, how could you do something so shameless? You owe Sophia an apology." Looking at their smug faces, I couldn't help but laugh a genuine, heartfelt laugh. If they wanted this gown so badly, I'd give it to them. I was curious to see how they would handle it, considering the dress wasn't even finished. "Ethan, how could you plagiarize and steal? I can't believe I misjudged you." The angry, disappointed man in front of me was none other than my boyfriend, Oliver. A-list actress Claudia Sterling had been invited to walk the red carpet at the Cannes Film Festival, and her stylist had chosen my carefully crafted gown, Lunar Eclipse. But at the company celebration, my nemesis, Sophia, whipped out the original sketch and accused me of copying her work. My coworkers looked bewildered, and before I could defend myself, Oliver jumped in and condemned me. With my boyfriend publicly admitting I plagiarized, the office erupted in chaos. Ethan always bullies Sophia at work, and now she's trying to steal her design? Shameless. Someone like her doesn't deserve to stay in the company. What if she steals our work next? Listening to my coworkers' self-righteous accusations, I found it laughable. The gown, Lunar Eclipse, was something I had painstakingly designed through sleepless nights. Sophia must have stolen the original sketch from me at some point and now had the audacity to accuse me of theft in public. My suspicion fell on Oliver. I was the only one who had worked on the gown, and the original sketch had been safely stored in my home office. Oliver had been working late frequently, trying to secure a promotion to director. He hadn't been home in days, except for the morning 2 days ago when I woke up at my desk to find him leaving with a folder of documents. I had been too exhausted to notice when he had returned the night before. Now, watching Sophia flaunt the sketch, everything clicked. Oliver and Sophia had orchestrated this together. Oliver noticed my gaze and, with a flash of disdain in his eyes, stepped forward, playing the role of the righteous man. "Ethan, I've tolerated your selfishness and arrogance before, but this is too far. You need to apologize to Sophia publicly and hand over Lunar Eclipse to her." Sophia, surrounded by the support of our coworkers, feigned a look of restraint, her eyes brimming with crocodile tears. "Don't be too hard on Ethan. She must have been desperate to secure the team leader position. As long as my design for Lunar Eclipse can bring the company success, I don't care whose name is on it." Our company was still in its early stages, and both Sophia and I were part of the design team. To motivate us, the manager had promised that whoever's design was chosen would be promoted to team leader. Sophia emphasized the words, "my design," her voice trembling slightly, as if she were holding back tears. This only fueled my coworkers' anger. The same people who had been congratulating me moments ago now glared at me with contempt, demanding I apologize. Ignoring their shouts, I walked up to Oliver, my voice calm as I asked, "Oliver, are you sure about this? You've thought it through?" He shook his head with feigned regret. "Ethan, I can't condone plagiarism. What you did was wrong. Apologize to Sophia and we'll forgive you." I rolled my eyes and brushed past him to face Sophia. "And you? Are you sure about this too?" Sophia immediately put on a frightened expression, her voice soft but loud enough for everyone to hear. "Ethan, I don't care if it's my name on the design. I just want Lunar Eclipse to be cherished. That's all that matters." The room erupted again with angry voices. I glanced at the unfinished seams on Lunar Eclipse and made up my mind. Clapping my hands, I silenced the crowd. "I resign. From now on, I will have nothing to do with Lunar Eclipse." Ignoring their mindless shouting, I turned and left the celebration. "I've lost," I texted. The reply came almost immediately. I glanced at the message, then locked my phone. A bunch of fools. This game was over. The next day, Claudia Sterling's stylist announced that they would select a new gown in a month's time. When I appeared backstage at the event, Sophia and Oliver were visibly stunned. "Ethan, how dare a plagiarist like you show up here?" Oliver demanded, his voice righteous as ever in front of all the other designers. Sophia finally dropped her act, sneering openly. "Ethan, wasn't stealing from me enough? Are you here to plagiarize someone else now? I'm too magnanimous to care, but how do you even have the nerve to show your face?" Sophia turned around and sternly instructed the confused designers, pointing directly at me and shouting, "Everyone, protect your designs. She plagiarized my work first, got fired from the company, and now somehow managed to attend this event. We must resist plagiarists and safeguard originality." Upon hearing this, the designers' faces changed drastically. Some began clutching their dresses tightly, while others who had just exchanged a few words with me looked as if they couldn't distance themselves fast enough. "Ian, just leave already. You don't have any designs to show, so stop embarrassing yourself here. We'll talk properly about our matters later," Oliver said impatiently, waving his hand as though shooing away a fly. I maintained a detached expression and raised an eyebrow at him. "What does my presence have to do with you? We don't have any ties, so there's nothing to talk about. What do you mean by that? Didn't you understand? You've been dumped. I don't want you anymore." Oliver froze, unable to believe that I, who had always been accommodating toward him, had just ended things so decisively. Sophia brushed a strand of hair away from her face, mockingly saying, "Ian, Oliver was just showing concern for you, yet you're so ungrateful." The moonlit elegance dress was something I meticulously designed over 3 months. What can you possibly produce in just 1 month? Before the event starts, pack up your junk and leave. Oliver's previously gloomy expression softened upon hearing Sophia's words. "Ian, did you really think you could just pick any random dress and be selected? Look at yourself, do you think you're even worthy?" I let out a cold laugh, subtly glancing at the two of them. "Am I worthy? Don't you two know better than anyone else? If your talents are really that exceptional, why did Sophie have to reselect a dress?" Oliver's face shifted, and he cast a suspicious glance at Sophia. Sophia looked momentarily flustered but quickly regained composure, wrapping her arm around Oliver's. "Oliver, don't listen to Ian's bluffing. Once the event starts, let's see what she has to compete against my moonlit elegance." Oliver's mood visibly improved as he thought of the exquisite design of moonlit elegance. Sophia, fearing I might say something to further arouse Oliver's doubts, stopped trying to suppress me and instead led him back to his seat to wait. From afar, I could hear Oliver's low voice asking, "Sophia, do you really know Alex? There won't be any issues, right?" "Oh, come on, Oliver, don't worry about it. I just met Alex recently, everything will be fine." Hearing Alex's name, I couldn't help but curl my lips into a smile. How convenient. It just so happens that I know him too. The event officially began after Sophie and her stylist made their entrance, and the models began showcasing the dresses on the runway. Sophie, initially bored and fiddling with her phone, suddenly perked up when moonlit elegance made its appearance. Her eyes lit up with excitement. Before Sophia could even introduce it, Sophie exclaimed eagerly, "No need to choose, I want this one." Sophia's face lit up with undisguised joy. She thanked Sophie profusely, then shot me a provocative look, confident in her victory. The stylist also nodded approvingly at moonlit elegance, and was just about to announce the decision when Alex arrived. Alexander, the CEO of a top-tier fashion design company, was an influential figure in the industry. Even lesser-known celebrities could skyrocket to fame simply by wearing a custom gown from his company. For every star, wearing a design from Alexander's group was the ultimate status symbol. Sophie, who had been indifferent earlier, immediately changed her demeanor upon seeing him. She followed the stylist closely, bowing and ingratiating herself in front of Alexander. She was eager to make a splash at the can-red carpet, hoping to solidify her standing in the industry. After exchanging pleasantries with them, Alexander spoke warmly. "I know someone attending this event today. I came to show my support for her." Oliver, sitting in the audience, was already so flustered he could hardly contain himself. His current company was a subsidiary of Alexander's group, and a year ago, his rapid promotions were primarily due to special attention from higher-ups. His boss had privately hinted that it was someone from above who had urged his advancement. Sophia, equally thrilled, couldn't believe what she was hearing. She had only exchanged a few words with Alexander previously, yet he remembered her and even came specifically to see her. Looking at the handsome Alexander, Sophia's cheeks turned red. The stylist, unaware of who Alexander was referring to, continued with the event after he took his seat. Moonlit elegance had already been selected, so it remained on stage while waiting for the final result. Sophie, who had been thrilled by Alexander's arrival, suddenly forgot about him entirely when my model walked onto the runway wearing my design. Both Sophie and the stylist stood up in shock, staring at my creation. Oliver frowned in displeasure, glaring at me, while Sophia looked so envious she was practically clawing at her hands. Ignoring their reactions, I focused on presenting the intricate details of my dress once the model took her position. Moonlit elegance was originally my creation. I knew its flaws better than anyone else. Before I could refine its imperfections and add the finishing touches, it had been stolen by Oliver and Sophia. At first, I had been furious. 3 months of hard work taken away. Anyone would feel enraged. But it seems fate favors me. After my complete fallout with Oliver and the others, a sudden burst of inspiration hit me. In just 1 month, I designed a piece that surpassed Crescent Moon in every way. My latest design is called Moon Slayer. This concludes my presentation of the concept and results behind its creation. With a smile, I wrapped up my speech and turned off the PowerPoint. As I glanced at Sophia, her eyes were red with jealousy, while Oliver's face had turned an alarming shade of gray in frustration. It was evident to everyone present that Moon Slayer had utterly outclassed Crescent Moon. The room fell silent. Suddenly, Alexander was the first to applaud. "Impressive, truly well designed," he praised. Sophia could no longer maintain her composure. She stormed forward and shouted, "No, we can't use Ethan's designs. Ethan is a plagiarist." All eyes in the room immediately shifted to me. The smile on Alexander's face faded as he fixed his gaze on me. "Ethan, what do you have to say about this?" I turned to face Sophia directly, meeting her accusations head-on. "If you're accusing me of plagiarism, then show me the evidence," I said calmly. Sophia's eyes gleamed with malice as she scoffed. "Do I even need to prove it? Everyone in the company knows you stole my design." Thankfully, I kept the original sketches, or I'd have no way to defend myself. Looking at the hesitant expression on Miss Poole's face, Sophia began pointing fingers at Oliver, rattling on furiously. "He's Ethan's ex-boyfriend. He can confirm that Ethan copied my work. There's no way Ethan could have designed something better than Crescent Moon in just 1 month. Even if it were possible, it certainly wouldn't be her original work, probably just another stolen idea." Oliver adjusted his suit and stood up, appearing like the picture of professionalism as he sought to mediate. "I'm the company's creative director, and Ethan and I have already broken up. She is indeed guilty of plagiarism, which I admit is my oversight. The company has since terminated her contract. As for Moonslayer, I cannot confirm it was Ethan's design. After all, she has a history of such behavior. Miss Poole, choosing this gown would come with significant risk." Miss Poole pouted, clearly reluctant to part with Moonslayer. Tugging on her stylist's sleeve, she seemed to be considering a compromise. The stylist offered a suggestion. If I revealed the true designer behind Moonslayer, Miss Poole would be willing to discuss the gown personally. "Moonslayer was designed by me," I declared firmly. Sophia sneered. "Ethan, stop pretending. If the actual designer comes forward, your reputation will be ruined. Not everyone is as forgiving as I am." Oliver chimed in, urging me, "Ethan, you need to prioritize the situation at hand." At that very moment, a loud gasp came from Sophia's model. The unfinished Crescent Moon gown had finally fallen apart, unable to hold together any longer. Fortunately, the model was wearing protective undergarments, preventing her from being exposed. As the model exited the stage, Miss Poole's expression darkened visibly. "Miss Sophia, are you seriously trying to have me wear an incomplete gown to the red carpet? What exactly are you trying to achieve here?" Sophia scrambled to explain, "No, it's not like that. I simply didn't have time to finish it. You can rest assured that the final version will be flawless." I turned to Sophia and spoke calmly. "Sophia, you haven't even introduced Crescent Moon's design concept. Why don't you enlighten us?" Sophia shot me a glare. "Why should I tell you, so you can steal it again? I'm genuinely curious about the concept behind this gown. Please share it with us," Alexander interjected. Sophia's demeanor immediately changed as she blushed and lowered her head shyly. "Of course. If Alex wants to hear it, I'd be happy to explain." Her face flushed as she nervously opened her PowerPoint presentation. Meanwhile, Oliver frowned slightly, his fists clenching unconsciously beside him. As Sophia began her explanation, anyone with a basic understanding of fashion design could sense that something was off. Her description was overly formulaic. She merely outlined the materials and structure of the gown without delving into its deeper meaning. It felt robotic, as though she were reading from a script. To make matters worse, she even described the sewing techniques incorrectly. Naturally, she wouldn't know the correct techniques, as they were secret methods passed down in my family for generations. Sophia remained oblivious to the skeptical gazes around her. She cheerfully opened the final slide, ready to make her closing remarks, when suddenly the audience collectively gasped in shock. Confused, Sophia followed their gaze to the screen behind her. When she saw the video playing, her face turned pale and she nearly fainted. The footage showed Oliver and Sophia in a compromising embrace, kissing in the corner of the office. Moments later, the video transitioned to Oliver sneaking into my study and stealing my sketches. The clips alternated repeatedly, leaving the room in stunned silence. Oliver's face turned ashen, his chest heaving as he trembled uncontrollably. Alexander stood up, his expression icy and his gaze sharp as he stared down Oliver. "Quite the creative director you are, engaging in this kind of behavior during working hours. You won't need to come in tomorrow." Oliver staggered, his desperation plain to see. He had spent 5 years clawing his way up to the position of creative director. There was no way he would give it up so easily. "Alex, please, let me explain," Sophia, say something, but there was no defense to be made. He could only cling to the faint hope that Sophia might come to his rescue. Sophia finally snapped out of her daze, recalling Alexander's earlier mention of knowing someone. Her expression softened slightly as she adopted a fragile demeanor, pleading pitifully with Alexander. "Alex, it's not what you think. I had no idea Oliver stole Ian's manuscript. He told me it was his own manuscript." Oliver's face turned pale with shock as he tried to refute her claim, but he was forced to take the blame. He had quarreled with Sophia for my sake, only to later fall out with her as well, leaving him with no way to recover from the situation. Sophia tried to grab Alexander's sleeve, but was swiftly avoided. Alexander looked at her with utter disgust. "Who are you? Who gave you permission to touch me?" His security team immediately stepped forward, separating a stunned Sophia from Alexander. Having uncovered the truth, Daisy, who had been eagerly trying to curry favor with Alexander, decided to focus on securing the project titled Lunar Blade. Ultimately, Lunar Blade emerged as the standout, destined to be showcased alongside Daisy to the world. Sophia and Oliver tried desperately to plead for Alexander's forgiveness, but were blocked by his security guards, unable to get anywhere near him. As Daisy and her team left, I crouched down to pick up the ruined moonlit crescent piece from the floor. It was the result of 3 months of hard work, but now it was tainted by Sophia and could no longer be presented. As Alexander prepared to leave, he called out to me. "Ian, are you coming?" I responded quickly and hurried to tidy up my dress, following Alexander out. Behind us, Sophia and Oliver exchanged uneasy glances, unable to escape their predicament. Sophia gritted her teeth and spat. "That wretched Ian must be behind this. I'll never let her off the hook." In the car, Alexander rubbed his temples, his voice weary. Heading home. Trying to butter him up, I began massaging his legs and said with a flattering tone, "I still have things to wrap up. Alex, thank you for today. Those videos, if it weren't for you, I'd never be able to clear my name. You're amazing." Alexander closed his eyes, enjoying my compliments, then tossed a folder onto my lap. "Inside are the assets you lost to me. Make sure to sign the paperwork and return it to me." My face immediately dropped, and I deeply regretted my earlier decisions. I worked even harder to massage his legs. "Alex, come on, can't you let this one slide? A magnanimous man like you would surely forgive me this time, right?" Alexander pushed my pleading face away and said firmly, "Absolutely not. A bet is a bet. When you wanted to be with Oliver, I warned you he wasn't trustworthy. You chose to gamble anyway. A bet lost is a bet paid. If I let it slide now, with your lack of judgment, you'd end up giving away the family's entire fortune sooner or later." With a heavy heart, I signed the documents. Alexander collected them and promptly ordered me out of the car. "I've got a meeting to get to. Mom and Dad will be back next week, so make sure you get everything sorted out. I've already briefed the subsidiary team." I watched his car disappear into the distance before turning to head back to my apartment. After a month away, the place was covered in a thin layer of dust. I called a professional cleaning service and sat on the sofa, lost in memories. I am the daughter of the Harlow Corporation. A year ago, my father entrusted the company to my brother, Alexander, and left to travel the world with my mother. They haven't returned since. I have a natural talent for design and was sent abroad at a young age to learn under top designers. My parents spoiled me endlessly. When I returned home a year ago, my father immediately placed me as the design director at the main office. However, Alexander, worried that I was too young and impulsive, cut off my access to funds while our parents were away. He sent me to a subsidiary as an intern instead, a life I had never experienced but grew to enjoy. Little did I know that this poor intern persona would provide an opportunity for Oliver and Sophia to take advantage of me. I hung up on Oliver's persistent calls and stared at the lifeless apartment. The place bore traces of my careful decoration over the past year. Thinking of Oliver, a sense of disgust surfaced in my heart. Sophia and I joined the fashion design company as interns at the same time. Oliver was our team leader back then. He was diligent and capable, and when Sophia confessed her feelings for him, he rejected her and swore loyalty to me instead. I didn't accept his advances at first, but Sophia held a grudge, constantly competing with me and pretending to be innocent and fragile to win sympathy. I chose to ignore her antics. After all, we weren't on the same level. What was there to compare? Sophia mistook my indifference for fear and continued to harass me, which became increasingly annoying. Oliver always showed up in time to resolve these situations for me. Gradually, our relationship naturally progressed into something more, a calm and comforting bond. Alexander warned me about Oliver's questionable intentions, but I bet 1/3 of my assets against Alexander's judgment. I wagered that Oliver was someone I could rely on for life. The result? I lost miserably. If I weren't the daughter of the Harlow Corporation, Oliver would have drained me dry by now. I instructed the cleaning service to pack up Oliver's belongings and change the locks. Looking at the half-empty apartment, I finally felt at ease. Later that afternoon, I went to the company to finalize my resignation. I arranged for a courier to deliver Oliver's belongings to the office with postage due. When I arrived at the company, I saw Oliver standing in the lobby, his face dark as he stared at the scattered luggage. The office was packed with colleagues eager to witness the drama. As soon as he spotted me, Ethan strode over in just a few steps and grabbed my arm. "What's the meaning of this, Ian?" he demanded. I pulled my arm back and looked at him coldly. "Isn't it obvious? Oliver, I'm breaking up with you." The murmurs around us grew louder. Oliver's face turned red with anger. Sophia, ever the schemer, chimed in from behind him with her syrupy voice. "Ian, how could you do this? Don't you know how much Oliver has done for you? Are you still mad at me? If that's the case, I'll apologize." Before she finished speaking, tears were already streaming down her face. Seeing that I remained indifferent, she bit her lip and weakly added, "I'm sore, Sophie, you don't need to apologize to her," Oliver interrupted firmly. Sophia immediately looked at him with adoration, her eyes brimming with affection. Oliver turned to me, his expression dark and stern. "Ian, I've spoiled you too much. If you want to break up, fine, but don't you think you owe me an explanation for what happened at the event?" I smiled at the sight of the two of them shielding each other like allies. "Sure," I replied, "but first, return everything I gave you, then we'll talk." Oliver looked puzzled and gestured toward the luggage on the ground. "Haven't you already taken everything?" I wagged my finger at him, pointing to his tailored suit. "Don't forget, the clothes on your back are mine too." His face instantly darkened as he gritted his teeth. "Ian, don't push it. You don't get to talk to me until you've returned everything I bought for you." Sophia puffed up indignantly. "Oliver, just give her back the clothes. Look at her, clinging to every little thing. We don't need her charity. Once you've returned it all, let's see what excuses she'll come up with." Urged by Sophia, Oliver reluctantly began stripping off his clothes. "And the watch, shoes, socks, and underwear too," I added. As he removed more and more, the murmurs among our colleagues grew louder. "So, everything Oliver wears was bought by Ian? Isn't that just freeloading?" "Exactly. And to think he always pretended to be so well off. What a joke." Sophia froze momentarily before quickly opening the suitcase to find Oliver something else to wear. Don't! Oliver's protest came too late. The suitcase was already open, and everyone who saw it was stunned. Oliver was notoriously stingy, a penny pincher through and through. All his clothes were cheap knockoffs. When we started dating, I didn't mind and even bought him luxury items. Over time, he boxed up all his old, shabby clothes. And now, Sophia had opened the very suitcase containing his collection of worn-out, bargain bin suits. Having gotten used to wearing high-end attire, Oliver clearly couldn't stand the thought of wearing those outdated rags again. But he had no choice. If he didn't, he'd lose what little dignity he had left in this argument. Once he was dressed, I casually tossed his discarded clothes into the trash. It was as if I'd delivered a mortal blow. His face turned an alarming shade of gray. "Ian, you've gone too far." I dusted off my hands and asked sincerely, "All right, now can we talk? Are you two here to apologize for stealing my manuscript?" Oliver's already dark expression turned even uglier, and Sophia looked utterly flustered. "What are you talking about? Wasn't it Ian who plagiarized Sophia's work?" Judging by their faces, it seems there's more to the story. I've always thought Ian wouldn't stoop to plagiarism. And even if she did, why would she copy Sophia of all people? Her work isn't even worth copying. The murmurs in the crowd grew louder, with several people stepping up to defend me. But I remained unmoved. Their sudden support wasn't worth celebrating, they were just opportunists swaying with the tide. Sophia bit her lip hard, then pulled out her phone, opening a tabloid article and shoving it in my face. Her voice was shrill as she said, "Ian, stop changing the subject. Oliver isn't here about that. He's here because you cheated on him and shamelessly threw yourself at Alex, only to be kicked out of his car." Oliver quickly jumped in, seizing the opportunity to shift the blame. "Exactly, Ian, you were the one who cheated first. I gave you my all, and this is how you repay me. You owe me an explanation." The colleagues who had just been on my side immediately turned, pulling out their phones to look up the gossip. As soon as they saw the headline, they sneered at me. The bold title screamed, "Shocking Scandal, Rising Star Tries to Seduce Alexander, Gets Thrown Out of His Car." The article even included a photo of me standing outside Alex's car, speaking to him while he looked at me with a cold expression. Social media users quickly dug up my accounts and flooded my comments with insults. If I weren't the subject of the story, even I might have believed it. But whether or not I was that kind of person had nothing to do with the fact that Oliver and Sophia had stolen my manuscript and accused me of plagiarism. Calmly, I finished reading the article and handed the phone back to Sophia. "Let's tackle things one at a time," I said. "You and Oliver owe me an apology first. Then we'll address this." My words seemed to give Oliver the leverage he was looking for. His eyes widened as he gasped for air, his face turning red with rage. He demanded, "So you really cheated on me?" I looked at Oliver as if he had lost his mind and sneered. "Oliver, when you and Sophie were making out behind my back at the office, did it ever occur to you that you were the one cheating?" My single remark sent shockwaves through the office, and the chatter from our colleagues nearly blew the roof off. "What? Oliver and Sophie were having an affair in the office? That's outrageous. Wow, looks like none of these three are decent people. Birds of a feather flock together. Is no wonder. I've seen Oliver and Sophie sneaking around together more than once. Her face was always flushed. Now it all makes sense. Tusk tusk. The moral decline these days is astounding, and someone like Oliver is a director? This company is doomed. Hey, I heard the final dress design was chosen from Ian's new collection. She came up with it in just a month, and it was still selected. That shows she's really talented. Sophie's voice rose to a sharp pitch as she screeched. The dress wasn't designed by Ian at all. She seduced Alex, and he hired someone to help her. Otherwise, how could she possibly have one? Oliver quickly chimed in, echoing Sophie's words. Exactly, I've been with Ian long enough to know she's completely useless. I had no interest in arguing with these people anymore. I had every means to make them disappear from my life, so why waste my time? I gave you both a chance to apologize, but since you're not taking it, so be it. I opened my laptop, connected it to the company lobby's large screen, and broadcasted everything Oliver and Sophie's illicit rendezvous, Oliver stealing the design drafts, and their embarrassing antics at the event, all of it uploaded online for the world to see. But before I could even begin to enjoy the flood of comments from netizens, I saw the trending headline. Alexander responds. Just as I was about to click on it, the voice of the subsidiary's general manager echoed from the front door. Miss Ian, please don't hold a grudge against me. I beg you, speak to Mr. Alex on my behalf. Please ask him not to fire me. Just give me another chance. The man, with his protruding beer belly, wore a pitiful expression as he pleaded with me. Sophie, who had been worried about being publicly shamed online, suddenly brightened up when she heard the manager's words. She thought her scandal would pale in comparison to mine. See, everyone, I wasn't lying. Ian really did throw herself at Alex. Before Sophie could finish her sentence, I slapped her hard enough to send her sprawling to the ground. I shook out the soreness in my palm and glared icily at the woman lying before me. Sophie, if you dare spread any more lies, I'll make sure you wish you were dead. By now, Oliver had calmed down. With a remorseful look on his face, he said, Ian, we both made mistakes once. I forgive you, so can't you forgive me? I don't care about whatever happened between you and Alexander. Let's move forward and live a good life together. I was so stunned by Oliver's shamelessness that I was momentarily speechless. He mistook my silence for consent. Swallowing the humiliation of being cuckolded, he reached out to grab my hand, only to be kicked aside by the general manager, who was eager to redeem himself. Get lost, who do you think you are? Forgiving Ian. Do you even know who she is? She's the heiress of the H Group, Alexander's biological sister. Oliver, who had been clutching his stomach in pain, looked up in disbelief. What? That's impossible. Her last name is Ian, not H. How could she be part of the H family? I smiled faintly and clarified, because I took my mother's last name. Oliver sat there, dumbfounded, as I finally clicked on Alexander's response. For the first time, Alexander had created a personal social media account. After verifying his identity, he shared the entertainment news, tagging my account, and added a caption. This is my biological sister. The legal notice is already on its way. Stay tuned. The same netizens who had been denouncing me just moments ago instantly changed their tune. The comment section was flooded with people addressing me as Miss H and volunteering to be my loyal servants. My colleagues, after seeing the truth revealed on the screen, scrambled to curry favor with me. The general manager waved them all away and then meekly rubbed his hands together, pleading for my help once again. Oliver finally snapped out of his stupor, realizing he had been sitting on a treasure all along, but had treated it like a worthless stone. He shot Sophie a glare, then, unable to stand up due to the pain in his stomach, crawled over to me on his knees. Clutching at the hem of my pants, he broke down in tears, shamelessly begging for forgiveness. Ian, it was all my fault. Sophie seduced me. Please forgive me. I love you. I was just momentarily blinded. For the sake of the love we shared this past year, can you give me another chance? I took a step back, pulling my pants away from his grasp, and said coldly, Oliver, we're done. Still unwilling to give up, Oliver tried to pester me further, but Alexander walked in just then. As he entered the room, his gaze swept over the crowd of onlookers with a deep frown. Sophie was the first to notice Alexander's arrival. She scrambled to her feet and stumbled toward him in desperation. For safety reasons, the bodyguard swiftly pinned Sophia to the ground. Her face was squished out of shape, but she still managed to squeeze out a voice to speak to Alex. Mr. Alex, do you really not remember me? We met last time. Alex glanced at Sophia coldly. I remember you. Sophia's face suddenly lit up with a smile, though the smile looked grotesque on her distorted face. Mr. Alex, this is all a misunderstanding. Actually, I've always liked Ian. It was Oliver who told me Ian was boring and came to me first. That's nonsense. You were the one who seduced me, Oliver shouted, his eyes bloodshot as he charged forward and pinned Sophia down, furiously slapping her face from both sides. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have broken up with Ethan. It's all your fault, all your fault. Seeing that Alex was no longer in danger, the bodyguard released his grip on Sophia and returned to his position behind Alex. Sophia screamed and tried to dodge, reaching out her hand to plead with Alex for help. Mr. Alex, please save me. Alex withdrew his gaze, his voice icy. You're the one who stole my sister's designs and smeared her name. I've already called the police. Sophia let out a desperate wail, but Oliver didn't let her off the hook, continuing to hit and curse her. Sophia finally snapped, and the two rolled on the floor, fighting each other as if their lives depended on it. I walked up to Alex and gently asked, "Brother, why are you here?" Alex ruffled my hair affectionately. "I saw the news and thought you might not be able to handle it, so I came." The general manager thickened his skin and approached me to plead. "Miss Ethan, please speak to Mr. Alex on my behalf. Just give me one more chance. I promise you'll never be mistreated here again, ever." A cold glint flashed in my eyes, and I sneered. "This subsidiary has no reason to continue operating. The entire team is a bunch of good-for-nothings, and my family has no use for you." Everyone who heard my words froze, stunned into silence by my commanding tone, not daring to utter a single word. Alex looked at me approvingly and ruffled my hair again. "Well done. You truly are a child of the Harlow family. Let's go back to headquarters." Just as I was about to leave, I hesitated for a moment and decided to give the general manager one last chance. "If you can clean up the mess here and deal with Oliver and the others properly, I'll let you start over from the bottom." The general manager immediately nodded and bowed, thanking me profusely. After we left, the general manager began handling the aftermath. As he passed Oliver, who lay exhausted on the floor gasping for air, he spat disdainfully. "Even when given a chance, you're useless." Furious, Oliver got up again and started fighting Sophia once more. In the car, Alex asked me why I had made that decision. I explained, "The general manager is slick and opportunistic. He's not suitable to remain as GM, but there are some tasks he can handle better than anyone else." Alex listened to my reasoning and finally relaxed. "It seems this past year hasn't been wasted. You've grown so much. Mom and Dad will be pleased when they return." At his mention of our parents, I suddenly remembered the most important thing. "Brother, please don't tell Mom and Dad about this past year." Alex raised an eyebrow and asked, "Why not?" I covered my face, embarrassed. "It's too humiliating." Alex burst out laughing in the car, and I angrily punched his leg in frustration. Later, the general manager informed me that when the police arrived, Oliver and Sophia were already half dead from their fight. Sophia had permanently injured one of her hands, and Oliver had lost sight in one eye. The video of their altercation quickly went viral online, and both of them were arrested for theft, defamation, and other crimes, facing a minimum of 3 years in prison. Meanwhile, Sophia Fontaine stunned the Cannes red carpet in her moonlit sleigh dress, earning widespread acclaim. I, too, became a household name. I was no longer just the heiress of the Harlow Group, but also a renowned fashion designer, Ethan Harlow. End of the first story. Subscribe to my channel if you like my stories. Don't miss the second exciting story. Story 2. Noah was the star I had poured my heart and soul into creating. Yet, when he won the Best Actor award, he accused me of exploiting him and indirectly causing his mother's death. Overnight, I went from being a top-tier talent agent to a pariah, despised and hunted by everyone. In the end, I died in a bathtub. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at the audition scene. I chose Ethan, who was far less handsome and charismatic than Noah. But Ethan looked at me with red-rimmed eyes and asked, "If I follow your lead this time, would you still take me?" "Get lost," I snapped. "Get as far away from me as possible. Wow, that guy is so handsome he could definitely make a living just off his looks," a girl remarked. The moment Noah walked into the audition venue, his strikingly handsome face and perfectly proportioned physique caused quite a stir. "He's even better looking than most pop idols, but I wonder if he has any real talent," another boy said sarcastically. "Guys like him are usually just pretty faces with no substance. If he's so good looking, why doesn't he just become a pop star instead of showing up at an actor's audition?" As if to prove their point, Noah turned out to be utterly incompetent despite his looks. Even his expressions during the simplest scene were stiff and dull. The other agents shook their heads in disappointment, lamenting the waste of his good looks. But I gave him a pass. Under my rigorous training and meticulous planning, he made remarkable progress. From a rookie actor to a rising star, and finally to winning Best Actor at the Golden Ivy Film Awards, all of this was thanks to my efforts. Without me pulling strings for him, securing valuable resources, and suppressing negative press, he would have remained just another pretty face. He would never have achieved his dreams. But what I got in return was betrayal. During his acceptance speech, he exposed me, claiming I had exploited him and even embezzled money meant for his mother's medical treatment, which led to her death. That day, he wept openly, delivering what I thought was the best performance of his career. However, that performance destroyed me. It turned me from a top talent agent into a despised figure. That night, my phone rang incessantly with calls demanding to know why I hadn't killed myself yet. "You disgusting leech, how dare you exploit Noah? Take a look in the mirror and see how pathetic you are. You murderer, just die already." But the truth was, his mother was never sick. She was buried in gambling debts. After Noah rose to fame, she approached him pretending to be ill to get money from him. Despite my warnings, he trusted her implicitly. Unable to watch him throw money into a bottomless pit, I uncovered her secrets and forced her to stay away from Noah. But she refused to change her ways, and her gambling eventually cost her life. Noah blamed me for everything. I knew he resented my strictness and training methods. After his mother's death, the hatred in his eyes became even more apparent. Finally, that hatred erupted. Noah's fans not only threatened me, but also harassed my parents. "With a daughter like this, you must be terrible parents too. Why don't you make her kill herself already?" Eventually, I fulfilled their wishes and ended my life in the bathtub. When I opened my eyes again, I was back at the audition scene. Noah's audition was as awkward as ever, drawing laughter from the waiting candidates. Yet he stood there calmly, his face radiating confidence, his simple hairstyle giving him an air of boldness. His determined gaze locked onto me, reminding me of the promise I had made to him on his 10th birthday. "If you want to be an actor, I'll help you." Back then, his father had passed away and his mother had long disappeared. As neighbors, my family took it upon ourselves to care for him. That promise had given him unwarranted confidence. Olivia nudged me with her elbow. "Sophia, you're the only one left to make a decision. Noah seems like your type, so why not take him in and train him? If he doesn't improve, you can just let his contract expire." I nodded at Olivia and decisively held up the fail card. Noah froze, his smile vanishing instantly, his eyes filled with confusion. Even Olivia looked at me in disbelief. "You're the best at working with these pretty boys. Why aren't you taking him in? If he turns out unteachable, you can just let him go when his contract ends." I stared at Noah and said, "He's not worth my time." His expression darkened with anger, his hands clenched into fists. Amid the jeers from the crowd, he stormed off furiously. Next, a young man, about 5'10", with a plain but honest face, walked nervously to the center of the stage. After several deep breaths, he began his scene. His performance wasn't much better than Noah's, prompting Olivia and the other agents to shake their heads and reject him. But I held up the pass card. Ethan had failed to pass our company's audition in my previous life and had signed with a small-time agency instead. While Noah was landing lead roles, Ethan was stuck playing extras. But his acting skills improved steadily. Whenever he had time, he attended acting classes. Gradually, he transitioned from supporting roles to leading ones. His transformation had left me astonished. At the Golden Valley Film Festival, Ethan was also nominated for Best Actor. However, his movie lacked marketing due to a shortage of funds. It was said that he had poured his entire fortune into the film, only for it to end up as a failure. A good movie can significantly boost an actor's chances of winning an award, and Noah was the one who benefited greatly from this. In his previous life, although Ethan failed to win Best Actor, he still graciously applauded his opponent. But this time, Ethan thought, "Let me help you." As I walked to the parking lot, my path was blocked. A cold male voice came from above, "Didn't you say you wanted to help me?" I looked up at him and replied, "Why waste my time on an ungrateful dog?" With that, I turned on my heel and walked away confidently. That very day, our company made headlines, but not in a good way. Noah had signed with our competitor, Vision Entertainment. Online, netizens mocked us relentlessly. "How stupid do you have to be to pass up such a handsome guy and sign someone so average-looking? The talent scout must have lost their mind." Honestly, even if the handsome guy acted terribly, I'd still pay to watch him. Agreed, I've already joined Noah's fan club. Our boss, his face visibly darkened as he read the comments online, turned to me. Olivia, have you lost your mind? The artists under your management have always been the epitome of our company's aesthetic standards, and now you signed. That guy, boss, please mind your words. I can guarantee you that within 3 years, Ethan will shine brightly. The boss laughed as if he'd just heard the most absurd joke. If you said Noah would succeed based on his looks alone, I'd believe you. But Ethan, impossible. I'll stake my career on it. If I fail, I'll personally cover the company's losses. Seeing how determined I was, the boss eventually backed off. As soon as I opened the door, I saw Ethan standing there with his head down, guilt written all over his face. I'm sorry, Sophie. I never meant to make things difficult for you. If you decide to terminate the contract, I won't ask for any compensation. I patted his shoulder and reassured him, don't overthink it. I signed you because I believe in you. In my previous life, I had seen Ethan practicing his lines alone while I worked with Noah on set. Even for a single line, Ethan would repeat it countless times until he found the perfect rendition. He may not be a natural-born talent, but with enough effort, he could surpass those who are. Because of this incident, other talent agents in the company began gossiping about me. They had always disapproved of the pretty faces I managed, despite the fact that my artists consistently landed prime opportunities. Now, they seized the chance to throw shade at me. Sophia, you've managed so many popular stars. How could you misjudge so badly this time? I turned and gave her a disdainful look. You do realize none of your artists are famous, right? She was rendered speechless, fuming quietly. I arranged for Ethan to move into the trainee dormitory and created a full schedule for him. What he lacked naturally, we would make up for with hard work. Most importantly, I placed a mirror next to his bed. This was for him to practice controlling his facial expressions, a task he had to complete for at least half an hour every day. He followed the schedule meticulously, even sending me video updates as proof. Meanwhile, Noah would always approach me smugly, saying, "Soph, look at this face. Do I really need to control my expressions? I could make any random expression and still enchant my fans." But I didn't agree with him. It was precisely because I managed so many pretty faces that I had earned the nickname, the Vase Agent. I wanted to shed this title, so I placed my bet on Noah. Yet every time I pushed him, he would complain, even going so far as to vent in his fan group chats. Soon, my inbox was flooded with messages from his fans, begging me to treat their beloved Noah better. After 2 months of training, I asked Ethan, "Don't you find this exhausting?" He shook his head firmly. "Not at all. Whatever you ask of me, Sophie, I will do." I gently patted his head, acknowledging his determination. Perhaps this is the difference between people. Over the past few months, I had also arranged for Ethan to take lessons in posture and fashion. Although his height wasn't remarkable for the entertainment industry, his overall aura had improved significantly. As long as he continued to cooperate with me, I was confident I could turn him into a star. I secured a small supporting role for him. Though the part wasn't large, the character was quite challenging. For a week leading up to the shoot, I saw Ethan in the rehearsal room every day, repeatedly practicing the lines and movements his coach had taught him. I pushed open the door and stepped in. "Ethan, you've already rehearsed the lines and movements countless times. Take a break." Wiping sweat off his face, he smiled innocently. "This is the first role I've had with this many lines. I have to do my best. I can't let you down, Sophie." In reality, he only had about 20 lines. Previously, he'd only played roles with 1 line or none at all, sometimes just a background figure. It was precisely because he'd never had much that he cherished every opportunity now. I couldn't help but think back to the first role I had gotten for Noah. It was a 4th male lead, and he had outright refused, tossing the script aside. "Sophia, this face of mine was born to play leading roles. If not the protagonist, I should at least be the tragic second lead." He lounged in a chair with his legs crossed, fiddling with his expensive watch. Every time I lost my patience with him, he would remind me, "You're the one who promised at my dad's grave that you'd take care of me. Are you regretting it now?" "Yeah, I regret it. I regret not giving him a slap right across the face." Ethan had delivered an outstanding performance in that series, earning the producer's admiration. That's why we were invited to audition for the role of the 3rd male lead in another project. Ethan was no longer the same person he was 6 months ago. Under my meticulous guidance, his demeanor had transformed dramatically, and his acting skills had improved significantly. But that day, he got nervous. He fumbled during the crying scene, failing to execute it properly. It was a pity, but I still went over to comfort him. "It's okay, we've only done a couple of projects. Failing once doesn't mean anything." Before I could finish, a sharp, mocking female voice interrupted me. Well, if it isn't Sophia, the celebrated agent. It was Emma from One Heart Entertainment, Noah's agent. When she signed Noah, she had boldly declared online that she would groom him into a star who balanced popularity with talent. I glanced past her, and sure enough, there was Noah striding confidently behind her. But something about him had changed. His gaze lacked the arrogance it once held. "So, Sophie failed the audition. Thanks for stepping aside and giving Noah the opportunity," Emma sneered. Noah shot me a brief glance before walking into the audition room. To my surprise, he performed exceptionally well, nothing like the awkwardness he had displayed during the selection process. Instead, it was reminiscent of the brilliance he once had at his peak when he won Best Actor. I was taken aback. Emma, on the other hand, couldn't stop grinning. "Look at that. Not just a pretty face, but a genius at acting too. Simply perfect," she boasted as she walked over to Noah. But instead of engaging her, Noah walked straight toward me. Lowering his head, he said, "This time I'll listen to you. Would you still be willing to sign me?" So, he had come back as well. But some things once missed are gone forever. I repeated the same words I had said before: "I don't keep ungrateful dogs by my side." Emma quickly grabbed Noah, clearly agitated. "What are you doing? I'm the one who signed you." "Stop throwing yourself at her." Noah remained silent, his eyes fixed on me. Meanwhile, I kept comforting Ethan. On the way back, he noticed my unusual mood and assumed it was because his performance had let me down. I shook my head. "I just ran into an ungrateful dog from the past. What you need to focus on now is continuing to learn. The size of the role doesn't matter. What matters is that it's the right fit for us." News about Noah landing the third male lead role quickly trended online. The comments were filled with ridicule aimed at Ethan. Noah even posted, "Some people fail to recognize real talent. I'll make her regret it." There was no doubt he was referring to me. What a joke. Even if I could go back and do it all again, signing him would still be out of the question. The online buzz only grew, but ironically, it ended up giving Ethan more exposure. Soon, we received multiple script offers, though they were mostly for villainous supporting roles. And of course, Noah was the top choice for the male lead in these projects. These people really knew how to ride the wave of popularity. Among the many invitations, I saw one for a reality show called Future Best Actor. It was a competition where aspiring actors showcased their skills, with the winner crowned as the champion. It not only provided exposure, but also served as a valuable learning opportunity. So, I decided to take Ethan to participate. Sure enough, when we arrived at the venue, there were Emma and Noah. Noah lounged in his chair, one leg crossed over the other, exuding arrogance. Lately, he had been basking in the spotlight, having starred as the lead in 2 back-to-back romantic dramas that won him a legion of adoring fans. Emma immediately put on a fake smile when she saw me. "Sophie, you're here too? You might as well withdraw now. After all, the champion is going to be our Noah." I rolled my eyes and ignored her. As I walked past Noah, he said coldly, "Do you really think you can elevate Ethan to the level I was once at? Don't kid yourself. The only reason you became a top agent was because of me and my face." I couldn't believe it. Even after everything, he was still so delusional. I couldn't look at him the way I would a normal person. People like him, the higher they climb, the harder they fall. "Is that so? I'm looking forward to the day you come crashing down," I replied. His expression darkened further. I knew all too well how Noah had reached his previous heights. To put it bluntly, no one else could have done it, not even Emma. But Ethan was starting to falter. He curled up in a corner of the stairwell, speaking softly. "Sophie, maybe I should just drop out. Look at Noah, his acting has improved so much, and he's already playing lead roles, while teenagers are often overly sensitive. Seeing someone else's success can easily make them feel inadequate. Ethan, this is the last time I'm going to say this. I have never once regretted signing you, but if you keep doubting yourself, I just might start." He looked up at me, his eyes filled with uncertainty. That look, I had never seen it in Noah. He had never experienced such vulnerability. His life had been filled with privileges thanks to his handsome face. He would never understand how hard it was for ordinary people to grow and succeed. The show began filming as scheduled. To stir up drama, the producers cleverly arranged for agents to sit in an observation room right in the middle of the action. And of course, they seated me and Emma front and center. They even set up 2 cameras in front of us, afraid of missing a single expression. The show began with everyone presenting a scene performance. Ethan played the role of a husband repenting at his wife's grave. His performance, from the dialogue to the emotional breakdown, was exceptionally well done. Even the manager on the side couldn't help but praise him, saying, "Ethan has really improved, he's a promising talent." I smiled with satisfaction, but Emma wasn't happy about it. "You call that good acting? Just wait until you see Noah's performance." Noah played a police officer interrogating a suspect, but throughout the scene, he was more focused on showing off his jawline. His fans had once said that Noah's jawline was sharper than their will to live, so he always tried to highlight it in his performances. However, I had previously stopped him from doing this. Now, with no one to restrain him, he indulged himself freely. The entire performance could only be described in 2 words: overly dramatic, you see? "Look at Noah, look at that jawline, it's gorgeous." Emma clapped enthusiastically, while I inwardly thought, "You need to eat something good for your brain." The panel of teachers on site couldn't quite comment on Ethan's performance, so one of them merely said, "Noah is the perfect archetype of a male lead idol." Anyone with half a brain could tell what that really meant. But to Noah's fans, this was high praise for their beloved star. Look, the professional teachers even said Noah is born to play leading roles. All those nobodies better stay far away. I could only shake my head and think, when the upper beam is crooked, the lower beam follows. Next came the group assignments. The production team deliberately placed Ethan and Noah in the same group. Emma, acting smug, said, "Sorry, Sophie, since Noah's in my group, he'll have to play a minor role because the leading role is always reserved for him." Before coming on the show, I already knew that the show was sponsored by a major entertainment company. But this time, there were 2 veteran actors on the judging panel, Mr. John and Mr. Clark. In my past life, I had taken Noah to visit these 2, but we were late by a few minutes, and they lectured us for an hour. They had long retired from acting, but the production team brought them back to elevate the show's credibility. With these 2 seasoned actors present, Emma and Noah wouldn't dare manipulate things openly. They could only resort to subtle tactics. A few days later, the first group performance began. Noah played the undercover protagonist, while Ethan played a hostage with only 1 line. During the performance, Noah constantly angled his left profile toward the camera, believing it to be his better side. The righteous and heroic character he was supposed to portray ended up looking like someone reveling in his own triumph. On the other hand, Ethan, whether the camera was on him or not, maintained his character throughout, a result of my advice to him. After the performance, the panel of teachers remained silent. Finally, Mr. Clark spoke first. The only person I noticed during the entire performance was Ethan. Mr. John nodded in agreement. Having grown accustomed to praise, Noah couldn't accept this and immediately retorted, "I think it's because you 2 haven't acted in a long time, so your perspective on what young people like today is outdated. I suggest you watch some of my other works." The moment those words left his mouth, the room fell into dead silence. Even Emma was stunned and quickly ran backstage to ask the director to stop recording. Soon, a swarm of staff rushed in to shut down the equipment and check if anyone had recorded the scene. Emma dragged Noah away to apologize and insisted on re-recording the segment before she could relax. Did they think I'd let them get away with this? If they could plant people among the staff, why couldn't I? What followed was an explosion of a video showing Noah openly disrespecting the veteran actors. Soon, actors and directors who had worked with Noah in the past came forward to expose him. They described how uncooperative he was on set, often acting like a diva, insisting on wearing his own clothes, and more. This earned him the reputation of being rude and entitled. Although his fans tried their best to control the narrative, the general public wasn't buying it and condemned him. They could hire bots to control the narrative, but so could I if people were already suspicious. Why not go all out? I purchased a large wave of bots to lead the criticism against Noah. From then on, Noah earned a new nickname, the Young Man. Of course, this was meant as a sarcastic jab. Meanwhile, Ethan started to gain more recognition. His acting is genuinely impressive. He has a bright future ahead. Seeing these comments filled me with satisfaction. My phone rang, and a cold male voice came through. Do you really want to destroy me this much? I already know the truth about what happened to my mom. Can't you give me another chance? Do you have to ruin me to feel happy? Faced with his accusations, I felt no emotion. Compared to the way he had lashed out at me that night, this was nothing. Of course, seeing you fall from grace is what I desire most. The entertainment company immediately launched an emergency PR campaign. Not only did they announce Noah's withdrawal from the show, but they also had him release a handwritten apology. One glance at the letter, and I knew it wasn't written by him. In my past life, he had also offended senior actors on a show, and I had forced him to write a letter of apology. He stubbornly refused, so I ended up forging it in his handwriting. Now, history was repeating itself. The handwritten apology, combined with his fans' efforts to control the conversation, gradually reduced the controversy's heat. Later, Noah was asked to participate in charity events. The public relations tactics were predictable and lacked originality. Meanwhile, I continued to bring Ethan onto variety shows. As Ethan gained popularity, the boss finally loosened up towards me. I proposed sponsoring the program we were working on, and the boss immediately began negotiations. With our company involved, even Star Entertainment wouldn't dare to act dishonorably. It wouldn't be good for their image. Privately, I took Ethan to visit two seasoned veterans, Mr. Johnson and Mr. Rivers, to learn acting techniques from them. The two admired Ethan's dedication. This kind of commitment to learning is rare in today's entertainment industry, Mr. Rivers remarked. Indeed, most people nowadays focus on chasing views and clicks, barely caring about the quality of their performances. But I chose to go against the grain because I firmly believe that one day, the industry will prioritize true talent over superficial popularity. Ethan excelled through every challenge and ultimately won the competition. That night, countless scripts poured in, and I was overwhelmed with options. However, I didn't just focus on selecting lead roles for him. What mattered more were the characters. I chose two scripts for him, one featuring a police officer, and another requiring him to portray a mentally challenged young man, a role that was incredibly challenging. After the variety show ended, Ethan immediately dove into filming. He also continued his charity work, spending days feeding tigers and caring for pandas. Yet, the smile in his photos started to look increasingly forced. Sure enough, one night back at the hotel, I overheard an argument between Noah and Emma. Are you kidding me? You want me to make a cameo in Ethan's show? You've lost your mind, Noah shouted. Emma retorted, do you not understand your current situation? You're just a rookie. Stop acting like you're some future Oscar winner, Noah snapped back. Emma, you're the one whose incompetent Sophia can get her clients top-tier roles, so why can't you? I'm going to tell the company I want a new agent. Fine, Noah, if that's how you feel, then you can fend for yourself. Emma stormed off in anger. After that, Star Entertainment's official Twitter account stopped updating any news about Noah. Even his personal social media went silent. It wasn't hard to guess he was probably partying at some nightclub. In my previous life, I had suppressed countless stories about Noah's nightlife antics. Reflecting on it now, I realize how foolish I was back then. Fortunately, Ethan was exceptionally obedient. On set, he worked hard on his acting, while I focused on maintaining good relationships. I regularly arranged catering trucks and refreshment stands for the crew and made efforts to build rapport with the extras. Ethan would chat with them and listen to their acting experiences, gleaning valuable insights. Although these extras often had minor roles, they were often highly experienced. Sitting down with them also provided insight into the dynamics among the cast. It's far better to cultivate a positive image through genuine relationships than superficial marketing. After every production wrapped, the extras would always sing Ethan's praises. The recognition from grassroots actors carries a unique credibility. Ethan continued to rise under my guidance. But then, out of nowhere, Celestial Entertainment, the largest entertainment company in the country, announced that they had signed Noah. Their resources far outstripped those of our company. The very next day, a production we had secured suddenly called to say that Ethan was no longer a fit for their project. That afternoon, they announced Noah as the new lead actor. As if that weren't disastrous enough, scandalous news broke later that day. A tabloid exposed that Ethan had not only dated someone during his university years, but that the woman had allegedly become pregnant. She even stepped forward to confirm the story herself. Soon, our partners began calling to terminate contracts. The total compensation for damages was a staggering $10 million. The boss, visibly furious, rubbed his temples and exclaimed, "Sophia, didn't you say you'd take responsibility for any fallout? Tell me, how do you plan to handle this?" "Boss," I began, but Ethan suddenly entered the office and interrupted. "Please don't blame Sophie. I'll take full responsibility for everything that's happened," Ethan said firmly, pulling me out of the room. I asked him directly if the allegations were true. He nodded solemnly. "Yes, I dated her in college, and she did become pregnant. When I found out, I wanted to take responsibility, but she disappeared." I trusted Ethan. I had thoroughly investigated his background before signing him. It was true that he had been in a relationship, but for actors, that's hardly scandalous. The real issue was the accusation that he hadn't taken responsibility. The woman in question had published multiple posts accusing Ethan, which made one thing clear: someone was behind this. I traced her IP address, but it led to a public cybercafe. It was evident that someone didn't want me to find her. As I turned to leave, I spotted a familiar face: Noah. He was now sporting a trendy blonde hairstyle that gleamed under the sunlight. His smirk was as insolent as ever. "Sophie, I told you that kid wouldn't amount to much. You should have signed me instead," he sneered. I stepped closer and asked coldly, "You're behind this, aren't you?" Feigning innocence, he replied, "Sophie, don't throw around baseless accusations. You know I don't have the kind of power to pull off something like this." "Then stay out of my way," I shot back, shoving him aside and walking away without another glance. I bribed the cybercafe owner to notify me the moment the woman showed up. After days of waiting, I finally received a lead. I disguised myself and sat next to the girl, who was passionately typing up her latest accusation. I spoke softly, "Do you know the maximum prison sentence for framing and defaming others?" Her hands froze mid-typing. She looked at me in alarm. "What are you talking about? I don't understand." As she turned to leave, I grabbed her and pulled her into a private room. Step by step, I cornered her. "Up to 10 years, I said firmly. She continued to feign innocence, claiming she knew nothing. I threw the evidence I had gathered right in her face. It detailed that she had undergone a checkup in July 2018, at which point she was already over a month pregnant. Yet 2 months prior, Ethan had been out of town for a club event. It was glaringly obvious the child wasn't his. She immediately dropped to her knees, begging, "I don't want to go to jail, please. I don't want to go to jail." "We won't press charges," I assured her, "as long as you tell us who put you up to this." After some hesitation, she finally confessed. It was Ava, the heiress of Crown Group and also the boss of Starlight Entertainment. "Noah, you really are living off someone else's dime, aren't you?" Under my coercion, the girl released a public clarification. However, though the truth was revealed, the damage to Ethan's reputation couldn't be undone. People online only ever remember the scandals, rarely the clarifications. Still, I wasn't too concerned. I believed that with the right mindset, we could recover. But then we faced suppression. Noah meddled in every single project Ethan was involved in, snatching up roles whether or not they suited him. The end result: he ruined several productions. While I was deep in thought, Noah had me taken away. It was to a high-end restaurant where at a lavish table sat 2 people, a manager from Starlight Entertainment and Ethan. "Look at this," Noah smirked. "The person you worked so hard to bring up is about to betray you. Wouldn't it have been better to sign me? Together, we'd be unstoppable." "You might be cheap, but I'm not," I shot back. As I left, the sound of my departure caught Ethan's attention, and he immediately chased after me. "Sophie, it's not what you think," he said hurriedly. "Yes, they did want to sign me, but I placed my hand over his mouth, signaling him to stop. "I believe you." And then I remembered. I had seen him before. During my junior year summer break, I was on my way home when I saw a 10-year-old boy performing in front of a street mirror. Intrigued, I approached him. "Do you want to be an actor someday?" I asked. With a childlike innocence, he replied, "Really? But I'm so dumb." "You may not be a genius," I told him, "but with hard work you can surpass one." It was my encouragement that set him on this path. Now I understood why, in another lifetime, his gaze toward me always carried such depth. I asked him, "Do you trust me?" He nodded resolutely. I contacted every journalist I knew and leaked footage of Noah partying at a nightclub. I knew all too well what kind of person he was behind the scenes. In another life, I had kept him on a tight leash, stopping him from causing any major trouble. But even then, he'd often sneak out to dance with women, calling it his recharge station for men. The video, explicit in both content and language, went viral immediately. Despite Starlight Entertainment's attempts to suppress it, it was too widespread to contain. Already lacking a good public image, Noah's reputation completely collapsed. Of course, his die-hard fans still defended him. What's wrong with a man going to a nightclub? He's handsome, he has every right to be a little flirty. If he asked me out, I wouldn't say no. These comments dominated the trending topics, leaving neutral observers appalled by his fanbase. But their desperate support didn't help much. Many producers promptly replaced Noah as the lead in their projects. Even when Starlight tried to pressure them, no one was willing to risk their own interests. I sat quietly at home, waiting for the phone to ring. Sure enough, one call came after another. During the time we were suppressed, I didn't let Ethan sit idle. I had him visit sets where he knew background actors and filmed several vlogs about it. The goodwill he built up with the public was incomparable to Noah's. I successfully secured Ethan a role in a major film production. If he performed well, he'd be on his way to becoming a top-tier actor. While we were fervently preparing for the shoot, Noah was scrambling to manage the PR crisis. What surprised me, though, was their next move. To salvage his image, Noah was made to kneel and apologize in a live stream. But after so long without acting, his skills had clearly regressed. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't muster a single tear. The live stream ended in a flurry of mocking comments. With no other options, Starlight Entertainment played their trump card. They partnered with a charity organization, giving Noah a special certificate to work as a teacher at a school for children with disabilities. Not only that, but they also donated $500,000 to the organization. Noah began live streaming his daily life as a teacher, showcasing his compassion and care. To my surprise, he actually kept it up for 6 months. Meanwhile, during those 6 months, Ethan shot 2 films back-to-back. Both had strong production teams and cast veteran actors alongside him. By the time filming wrapped, everyone was full of praise for him. I then had Ethan start doing charity work as well. But it wasn't to pick a fight with Noah. It was the local association that reached out to us, hoping we could serve as ambassadors to promote their rural children's welfare program. As I looked at the innocent faces on the screen, my eyes welled up. I, too, had been one of those children before the age of 10, always waiting for the day my parents would come home. Ethan understood how I felt and worked tirelessly throughout the campaign. Talented in acting and full of compassion, Ethan had become a rare combination of true talent and star power. Even my boss gave me a thumbs up, saying, "Sophia, you've really got an eye for talent. You found a rising star just like that." Just like that? It took me a whole lifetime to find him. Noah, on the other hand, was burning with anxiety as he watched Ethan's career soar while still pretending to be the good guy. His eyebrows were practically sweating, so what could he do? Complain to his sponsor, of course. But little did they know, I had already planted someone in the charity organization. Noah dialed Ava's number, his voice dripping with false sincerity. "Sweetheart, I don't want to stay here anymore. It's my fault I shouldn't have gone to the nightclub. I won't do it again, I swear. Can you come see me? I miss you." The young woman on the other end of the line gave a soft okay. That evening, a luxury sports car pulled up behind the employee dormitory. To avoid being seen, they snuck into the storage room. Naturally, only the room I had carefully left unlocked was available. The two embraced each other passionately, as if trying to merge into one. Soon, their heavy breaths mingled together, completely oblivious to the hidden camera capturing everything. I watched the steamy scene in the live stream and couldn't help but marvel at how entertaining it was. I immediately posted anonymously. Want to see this in person? Head to the storage room on the third floor of the employee dormitory. Then I logged off. Within moments, the dormitory building was brightly lit. Reporters, cameras in tow, rushed in, while employees from Starshine Entertainment tried in vain to stop the crowd. The storage room door was busted open, leaving the two people locked in a kiss, utterly stunned. They scrambled to cover their faces and flee in all directions. Ava was whisked away by her family's bodyguards, while Noah tried to follow, only to be kicked down by the same bodyguards. He could only curl up in a corner, clutching his head. It wasn't until the police arrived that the chaos finally ended. That night, Noah became the biggest joke on the internet. Starshine Entertainment announced they were terminating his contract. All of his endorsements were pulled, and he was left to pay hefty breach of contract penalties. He was now left with nothing. Ethan's film premiered to rave reviews. Industry insiders predicted he had a strong chance of being nominated for Best New Actor. And sure enough, he did it. Wearing a sharp, tailored suit, he stood on stage to accept the award, a far cry from the nervous young man I first met at his audition. Every gesture and movement exuded elegance. The following year, Ethan won Best Actor for his role in The Human Condition. Standing there with tears streaming down his face, he choked up as he said, "I owe all of my success to Sophie. If she hadn't signed me back then, I wouldn't be where I am today." Thunderous applause erupted, and I was overcome with emotion. Once upon a time, another young man stood on a similar stage, but all he brought me was disaster. Now, Ethan had given me honor. Some people, if they don't know gratitude, are better left behind. After Ethan's Best Actor win, I earned the title of Golden Manager. My office was relocated right next to the boss's. I had reached this position in my previous life as well, but the view this time was entirely different. One day, I received a call from the police asking me to come identify a body. Noah lay there, stiff and lifeless. I shook my head. Sure enough, it was his mother who had come to him for help again. But this time, he had no money to give her. In the end, he and his mother had jumped into the river together. I signed the papers, arranged for his body to be sent to the funeral home, and later took his ashes back to his hometown. At the very least, I thought, he deserved to rest where he came from. What a pity. Given a second chance, I made the right choices, while he continued down the wrong path, never to return. My career, on the other hand, was flourishing. Although Ethan had expressed his feelings for me, I turned him down. Between us, I felt it was best to maintain a purely professional relationship. That way, we could maximize our mutual benefits.